Happily, young Flaxman's skill in design had reached the knowledge of Josiah Wedgwood, who sought him out for the purpose of employing him to design improved patterns of china and earthenware. It may seem a humble department of art for such a genius as Flaxman to work in, but it really was not so. An artist may be laboring truly in his vocation while designing a common teapot or water jug. Articles in daily use amongst the people, which are before their eyes at every meal, may be made the vehicles of education to all, and minister to their highest culture. The most ambitious artist may thus confer a greater practical benefit on his countrymen than by executing an elaborate work which he may sell for thousands of pounds to be placed in some wealthy man's gallery where it is hidden away from public sight. Before Wedgwood's time the designs which figured upon our china and stoneware were hideous both in drawing and execution, and he determined to improve both. Flaxman did his best to carry out the manufacturer's views. He supplied him from time to time with models and designs of various pieces of earthenware, the subjects of which were principally from ancient verse and history. Many of them are still in existence, and some are equal in beauty and simplicity to his after designs for marble. The celebrated Etruscan vases, specimens of which were to be found in public museums and in the cabinets of the curious, furnished him with the best examples of form, and these he embellished with his own elegant devices. Stuart's Athens, then recently published, furnished him with specimens of the purest shaped Greek utensils. Of these he adopted the best, and worked them into new shapes of elegance and beauty. Flaxman then saw that he was laboring in a great work, no less than the promotion of popular education. And he was proud, in after life, to allude to his early labors in this walk, by which he was enabled at the same time to cultivate his love of the beautiful, to diffuse a taste for art among the people, and to replenish his own purse, while he promoted the prosperity of his friend and benefactor. At length, in the year 1782, when 27 years of age, he quitted his father's roof and rented a small house and studio in Wardour Street, Soho. And what was more, he married. Anne Denman was the name of his wife, and a cheerful, bright-souled, noble woman she was. He believed that in marrying her he should be able to work with an intenser spirit. For, like him, she had a taste for poetry and art. And besides was an enthusiastic admirer of her husband's genius. Yet when Sir Joshua Reynolds, himself a bachelor, met Flaxman shortly after his marriage, he said to him, "So, Flaxman, I am told you are married. If so, sir, I tell you you are ruined for an artist." Flaxman went straight home, sat down beside his wife, took her hand in his, and said, "Anne, I am ruined for an artist." "How so, John? How has it happened? And who has done it?" "It happened," he replied, "in the church, and Anne Denman has done it." He then told her of Sir Joshua's remark, whose opinion was well known, and had often been expressed, that if students would excel they must bring the whole powers of their mind to bear upon their art, from the moment they rose until they went to bed. And also, that no man could be a great artist unless he studied the grand works of Raphael, Michelangelo, and others, at Rome and Florence. "And I," said Flaxman, drawing up his little figure to its full height, "I would be a great artist." "And a great artist you shall be," said his wife, "and visit Rome too, if that be really necessary to make you great." "But how?" asked Flaxman. "Work and economize," rejoined the brave wife. I will never have it said that Anne Denman ruined John Flaxman for an artist. And so it was determined by the pair that the journey to Rome was to be made when their means would admit. "I will go to Rome," said Flaxman, "and show the president that wedlock is for a man's good rather than his harm. And you, Anne, shall accompany me." Patiently and happily the affectionate couple plodded on during 5 years in their humble little home in Wardour Street, always with the long journey to Rome before them. It was never lost sight of for a moment, and not a penny was uselessly spent that could be saved towards the necessary expenses. They said no word to anyone about their project, solicited no aid from the Academy, but trusted only to their own patient labor and love to pursue and achieve their object. During this time Flaxman exhibited very few works. He could not afford marble to experiment in original designs, but he obtained frequent commissions for monuments, by the profits of which he maintained himself. He still worked for Wedgwood, who was a prompt paymaster, and, on the whole, he was thriving, happy, and hopeful. His local respectability was even such as to bring local honors and local work upon him, for he was elected by the ratepayers to collect the watch rate for the parish of St. Anne, when he might be seen going about with an ink bottle suspended from his buttonhole, collecting the money. At length Flaxman and his wife, having accumulated a sufficient store of savings, set out for Rome. Arrived there, he applied himself diligently to study, maintaining himself, like other poor artists, by making copies from the antique. English visitors sought his studio, and gave him commissions. And it was then that he composed his beautiful designs illustrative of Homer, Aeschylus, and Dante. The price paid for them was moderate, only 15 shillings apiece. But Flaxman worked for art as well as money, and the beauty of the designs brought him other friends and patrons. He executed Cupid and Aurora for the munificent Thomas Hope, and the Fury of Athamas for the Earl of Bristol. He then prepared to return to England, his taste improved and cultivated by careful study. But before he left Italy, the Academies of Florence and Carrara recognized his merit by electing him a member. His fame had preceded him to London, where he soon found abundant employment. While at Rome he had been commissioned to execute his famous monument in memory of Lord Mansfield, and it was erected in the north transept of Westminster Abbey shortly after his return. It stands there in majestic grandeur, a monument to the genius of Flaxman himself, calm, simple, and severe. No wonder that Banks, the sculptor, then in the heyday of his fame, exclaimed when he saw it, "This little man cuts us all out." When the members of the Royal Academy heard of Flaxman's return, and especially when they had an opportunity of seeing and admiring his portrait statue of Mansfield, they were eager to have him enrolled among their number. He allowed his name to be proposed in the candidates' list of associates, and was immediately elected. Shortly after, he appeared in an entirely new character. The little boy, who had begun his studies behind the plaster cast seller's shop counter in New Street, Covent Garden, was now a man of high intellect and recognized supremacy in art, to instruct students, in the character of Professor of Sculpture to the Royal Academy. And no man better deserved to fill the distinguished office. For none is so able to instruct others as he who, for himself and by his own efforts, has learned to grapple with and overcome difficulties. After a long, peaceful, and happy life, Flaxman found himself growing old. The loss which he sustained by the death of his affectionate wife Anne, was a severe shock to him. But he survived her several years, during which he executed his celebrated Shield of Achilles, and his noble Archangel Michael vanquishing Satan, perhaps his two greatest works.